Hi, and welcome to this episode of Ask Amy. Our guest today is Hunter Klein. He is an insurance attorney with Green, Klein, Wood & Jones. Thanks so much for coming on today.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we've been talking a lot about insurance. We know that homeowners are noticing, more and more that, oh, your insurance company's not renewing you or your policy's going up double. And we also talked a lot about roofing recently, like after the big storms, and that caught your attention when we did a segment on that.
It did, yes. Well, I first off loved watching the segment. There's a lot of great information from it, but yeah, there was one portion of it that did pique my interest when we saw it.
Yeah, so I want to show you guys the clip that Hunter saw whenever he was watching us. And then, I really like talking with attorneys like yourself because you're a wealth of information, right? I mean, you know insurance law, you know what we as homeowners need to be looking at and what we need to know about. And when you saw the clip we're about to show everybody, you were like, wait a minute. First, we're going to show that to you real quick, and then we'll talk about it on the back end. Hi. Can I help you? Yes, ma'am. I'm just in your area today performing free roof inspections after that big storm you all had. I can get up there and take a look and let you know if I see anything. Who are you with? Home Services Roofing. We just want to see if we can help you get a new roof. We're able to file the insurance claim for you, but first we need to get up there and take a look. Okay, so what you took issue with that was what?
The offer to help with the insurance claim. What a lot of people don't realize is that in order to assist an insured with the work on an insurance claim, to negotiate with an insurance company, to even advertise that you can assist with an insurance claim requires a licensure from the Texas Department of Insurance. And roofers, by law, cannot carry that license. It has to be someone called a public insurance adjuster. So the issue that I had was the roofer offering to help file the insurance claim. That's very problematic and likely illegal under Texas law. Okay, but we know this happens all the time. I mean, you said that, and it's like, but wait a minute. I mean, it's happened. I mean, every roofer, it seems like, says, I can help you. There are and there aren't. So there's helping with giving, hey, here's a bid, here's what damages we see. There's nothing wrong with that. Where it runs afoul is when roofers then take and try to present that to the insurance company, when they offer to meet with the adjuster, when they offer to advocate on your behalf or negotiate on your behalf. Those are actually illegal acts that a roofer cannot do. Now, we know it happens all the time. Mm-hmm. Part of the reason is people just don't know. They don't realize that roofers can't do this. They don't realize that's an illegal practice. And the other thing is, it's a relatively new requirement. It's only been around for about the last 15, 20 years that this practice has become illegal. And only recently has there been really any dispute or legislation or cases dealing with this issue. But it is in fact illegal for roofers to negotiate, to act as advocates, to speak on behalf of insureds. They cannot do that. Is anybody cracking down on this? Because I think one reason why roofers do it is because nobody's stopping them from doing it. The biggest thing that people can do or that is happening to enforce it is, first off, education, especially with the recent Texas Supreme Court decision that has dealt with this. People are trying to educate homeowners and educate other roofers, frankly. And what we have seen there's problematic language in advertising and in contracts that roofers have. The best roofers, the most reputable roofers, don't have that language. So my advice to any consumer who's considering, should I hire roofing company A or roofing company B, look at the contracts. If that contract gives the roofer the authority to negotiate on your behalf, to act on your behalf, to advocate, or uses any variety of that language, that contract is illegal. A good roofer, a reputable roofer, will not have that illegal language. So that would be my advice to a consumer, is to search out for companies that do not have that illegal language. Yeah, so okay, then you can imagine people, it's almost like, you're taking your car to a shop. Like, I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't know what's causing that noise or what's causing my car not to start, or I have no idea what's going on my roof, and probably have not been on my own roof to find out if there's damage or anything that looks like my insurance company would say, oh yeah, this needs to be fixed. And so then you're thinking, oh, these roofers are the experts. Let's talk about, I gave you the example of, well, both of my neighbors were able to get their claims approved when they used, this certain roofing company, but then mine was denied. So they said they can help me. I should stay away from that. I would recommend you stay away from that. The risk you run is, especially after a massive event like the derecho that happened, or we're beginning hurricane season. So if ever a hurricane were to hit Houston, people flood into the city, as you pointed out in the skit we just saw. My advice would be careful, because if A roofer has in their contract that illegal language, and let's say things go sideways. Let's say that for whatever reason they don't finish the job, they don't do a great job. That's an indication of a less reputable company that's likely to just roll up their cloth, start a new company, and then you're left in the lurch. Because there is no licensure for roofers in Texas, because they're not required to be insured or bonded, that can leave a homeowner in the lurch with little to no recourse against that company if it goes sideways.
So your point is, if they're willing to break the law with that language and say that they can help you file a claim, then what else would they maybe cross the line with?
Exactly.
Got it. Okay, so then let me give you my scenario. So I signed up for an insurance company, signed on with them, and was told, yeah, they're covering you this year, but just so you know, you're on a list to not be renewed because of the age of your roof. So you should probably try to see if you can get your roof replaced, maybe with your last insurance company. Call a roofer. They can tell you what dates there was any sort of significant damage in your area that insurance companies are paying out for. So this roofer comes over, doesn't even get on my roof because it's like 3 stories tall and it's too difficult to get up there, and said, okay, well, let's file a claim on this date. They're sitting right there while I call the insurance company. Is there anything wrong with that?
Possibly, yes. And the issue becomes, first off, you, the insured, have the responsibility to give prompt notice to the insurance company after any damages occur. So if a roofer knocks on your door and says, hey, there's this web company I subscribe to, and there's a lot of them out there, they're algorithm based, that say, oh yeah, in this neighborhood there was a storm on this date. It's not really that reliable, but people rely on it. So you say, okay, insurance company, there was a storm on this date that was 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months ago. There may not be coverage for that because it took so long. The other issue is, in Texas, the burden to prove when damages occurred is on the insured, not the insurance company. And so if you've got old damages, if you've got damages that occurred over time, or you're just cherry picking a date, you're already putting coverage in jeopardy. Then you're getting into a situation where your roofer's trying to steer the ship to get you coverage, your insurance company saying, you may have a coverage issue, you're just barreling towards a dispute, when in reality, your roof may be fine, or it may be a situation where you've just got an old roof, and insurance companies, unfortunately, don't just insure against old roofs.
Right. Yeah, we wish they did.
Yes.
Okay, so knowing all that, knowing that really they can sort of those dates that you're talking about, cherry picking dates. I mean, that's absolutely, it sounds like, the way that it's happening.
Yes.
Because the roofers know, like, okay, there was this significant wind damage here or that damage there, so you really shouldn't. What I was told was that you have 2 years within the date of a qualifying event because you might not know that you had damage from that.
That's a great point, and I'm glad you brought it up. There's a lot of confusion that surrounds that. So 2 points I would make on it. The first one is, as I said before, every policy contains a prompt notice requirement. That says that you, the policyholder, must give your insurance company notice as promptly as possible after the damages occur. To your point, what if you don't know? What if time goes by? What if it's a second home or a vacation home or something like that? So yes, you do have, in some instances, possibly 2 years. That's where the confusion is. There's nothing that says you have to file a claim within 2 years of the date the damages occur, except policies now. State Farm has this, Allstate has this, other policies have it as well, that say if it's a wind or a hail event, it must be filed within 1 year of the date the damages occur. And you can avoid that if you can show good cause, but no one knows what that means. So if it's a wind or a hail event, you likely have only 1 year. If it's water or something like that, you might have 2 years, but this is where it's important. Just because you file it within the year does not make it prompt. Those two requirements exist together. So if you wait and file it on day 364, yeah, congratulations, you complied with the 1 year requirement, you're still not prompt. And so that creates some conflict.
On whether they're going to approve your claim or, okay.
Exactly.
All right, so I do want to talk to you. We're going to take a quick break. You mentioned, I'm like, hey, if I don't feel comfortable or confident filing this claim and the roofer's not allowed to help me, then who can I go to? And you said, hey, public adjusters.
Yes.
We're going to talk about public adjusters when we come back. Welcome back to this episode of Ask Amy. We started talking about roofing, talking about insurance claims with Hunter Klein. He is with Green, Klein, Wood & Jones here in the Houston area, and you mostly represent homeowners, policyholders, when something goes wrong with a claim that they filed with their insurance company?
I always tell people nobody calls me when something has gone right. And I always tell my clients after we end a claim that, hey, it was a pleasure working with you. I hope I professionally never have to meet you again. But yes, we get involved when things have gone sideways, typically with insurance companies.
I mean, so we're definitely hearing more about insurance companies raising rates right now because of so many catastrophes, you know, across the globe, really, all across the United States. Are we seeing, do you know, I mean, does it feel like we're seeing more claims denied, or is it just the coverages being, the rates going up?
I think it's both. I think we're seeing an increase of denied or disputed claims. I think we're seeing an increase in rates. I think we're seeing reductions in coverage that people aren't aware of. And I also think that the law on this issue changes pretty frequently as far as how coverage applies, what the policyholder must demonstrate, what is an excluded event versus not. You know, I tell people, oh, I've been doing this for 20 years. Great, your information's only 18 and a half years out of date. So it's all those things working in tandem with the increased events that we're seeing. I think that all is coming to a head with this.
Yeah, I mean, and you think as a homeowner, how could I possibly keep up with all of this stuff and like everything that I'm supposed to know? I'm just thinking, I know what my premiums are, I know what my deductible is, and what should be covered. And if I don't know that, I could go back to my policy.
Right.
But all of these things that you talk about, like you've got this amount of time to do this, and you know, deadlines and stuff, I think that's where the most people are just not knowledgeable on that. Okay, so we talked about roofers and what they are not allowed to do, and they're not allowed to negotiate on your behalf, but there are professionals who can.
There are. So there exists a profession that's relatively new. It was created by law in 2004 called public insurance adjusters. And what a public insurance adjuster is, it's a person that's actually licensed by the Texas Department of Insurance. They have to take a test. They have to be licensed, insured, and bonded. They are authorized by law to act as your advocate. They're actually the fiduciary of the policyholders. They owe that fiduciary obligation to negotiate on behalf of their experts, typically in policies, in coverage. Most of them are former contractors, construction workers, or former adjusters themselves, so they know the materials, they know the construction, they know the policies. They can give the insured that advice, that counsel, and can work with the insurance company like the roofers advertise to do. Public adjusters actually can do that.
I feel like we started hearing a lot about, and that makes sense that you said that it was sort of written into law that they have to be licensed in 2004, because it was, I believe it was like Hurricanes Rita and Ike, where you started hearing about people who had filed claims that were like, maybe we should get a public adjuster. And then people were like, well, where do I find a public adjuster? At what point do you call them? So let's just start with, not everybody has in their little, you know, Rolodex of like painters and all these professionals and repair people, a public adjuster. So how would I know where to find one, where to go to look for one?
The best place I would say to look for is what's called the Texas Association of Public Insurance Adjusters, or called TAPIA for short. They're an organization of outstanding professionals. They have members all over the state of Texas, many of them in Houston. So I would recommend, if you're looking for a public adjuster, they should be your first phone call. They're a great resource for locating a reputable professional public adjuster.
And then, how do I know? I mean, I don't probably need to call a public adjuster for any claim. At what point do you think that it's useful or helpful for people to use one?
So that's going to depend on the kind of claim that you're looking to file. I think if you've got, let's say after the derecho or a massive hurricane, knock on wood, hits Houston, and you're seeing pieces of your roof in your yard, there's clearly damage to your property, the insurance company is likely going to do the right thing and be above board. You should be okay. If you start to see more, though, than just damage to your roof, if you see a lot of water coming into the inside, if you've got part of the ceiling that is collapsed, for example, if you've got a tree that fell on part of your property, if the claim becomes more complicated than just a simple roof, then my advice would be, and personally I would every single time, call a public adjuster. So what I tell people is, if you've got complex damage that's more than just your roof, your first phone call needs to be to your insurance company. Prompt notice has to be given. Your second phone call, my second phone call, would be to a public adjuster.
And that's going to cost me. I mean, they're not working for free.
That's correct. But luckily, public adjusters will not charge you out of pocket. A public adjuster will typically charge what's called a contingent fee, much like lawyers do. And that is a percentage of any amount paid by the insurance company. By law, it's capped at 10%. So some public adjusters, you know, will vary depending on the complexity and size, if it's easy or whatever. But typically, the average rate for a public adjuster is 10% of what the insurance company pays.
Okay, so then you'd also have to budget for that and know that, hey, if my insurance company, if I had a lot of damage damage is going to give me like 40 or 50,000, I'm going to have to take, 5,000 off of that to give the public adjuster. And then you said, then keep in mind, you're also going to have a deductible for your insurance for whatever work is done.
That's correct. And what I tell people, or the advice that I would give, is those duties, the amount of loss that we discussed with the prompt notice, there's also obligations to give inventories of property, to identify what's damaged, to give costs, quantities of all those damaged items. That could include a roof, that could include drywall, insulation, clothing, bedding. My son's got a chest full of stuffed animals. Water gets dumped on that. Somebody's got to go through, identify every animal, all the damages, costs, things like that. That takes a lot of time. That's what a public adjuster will do. So the analysis I would advise that homeowners or policyholders take is think about the amount of time and complexity in putting those things together. For me personally, that's worth 10% all day long.
Yeah, and like so many things in everybody's lives, it might be somebody else may say, oh no, I'd rather save that money and do it myself, whereas somebody else might choose to do it. You don't have to hire one, but that's sort of your best way to find somebody and know what you can expect to pay. When we come back, I want to talk to you about some other deadlines and things important. A question we get all the time is, how long does my insurance company have to pay my claim when I submit it? We're going to talk about that after this quick break. Welcome back to this Ask Amy episode. Our guest today is Hunter Klein of Green, Klein, Wood & Jones. We're talking about all things insurance claims. Not a fun subject, but one a lot of people are dealing with these days, whether finding a new insurance company. We had derecho come through and people had a lot of damage to their property having to file claims. So a common question that we get is about when I file a claim. It seems like some insurance companies move a lot slower, some a lot quicker, and actually filling those claims or even responding to me. So what should I expect? Like, how long does my insurance company have to pay out a claim whenever I file one?
That's a great question, and the answer lies in statute. It is called the Texas Prompt Payment of Claims Act. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail about it, but here's the numbers that matter. 15. The insurance company has 15 days from the date written notice sent. Now, this is important. Calling your agent and saying, I think I have damage, yes, that can get the claim process started. But to trigger the statute, the notice must be written. That can be an email to your agent, an email to your insurance company. Most insurance companies have an online claims portal. All that satisfies the written requirement, but it must be written. So take the day you give that written notice and then measure out 15 days. The insurance company has 15 days to request from the policyholder any item, statement, and form needed for the adjustment of the claim, whether it's records, whether it's whatever. They have 15 days. If they don't ask for anything in the first 15 days, they have 75 days from when that written notice is given to pay the claim. If they don't pay the claim, starting on day 76, they owe interest. Now, the rate of interest depends on what type of claim it is. If it's a weather-related claim, the statute is it's 5% above whatever the current prime rate is. If it's not a weather claim, if it's a fire claim, if it's a leak in your air conditioning or a leak in your dishwasher, that's 18%. So it's a higher interest rate. But the short answer is 75 days from first notice if nothing is requested. If something is requested in the first 15 days, then they have 60 days from when they get what they asked for to pay the claim. Now, requests on day 16, day 17, day 18, those don't count. So even if they ask for things on day 16, you have to give it to them. You have a duty to cooperate, but that doesn't stop the timelines.
Okay, the timeline has already started for them to actually pay on the claim. I don't know if you've ever had this happen. It would seem that if an insurance company is going to deny a claim, they do it rather quickly. But what if I just haven't heard back from them? There's no interest on nothing. If they deny my claim, is there any sort of recourse for that? There
are other statutes in the insurance code, other timelines in the insurance code or deadlines for them to acknowledge the claim, to accept or reject the claim, to confirm receipt of information. Now, those deadlines don't carry with it the penalty interest if they're breached, but those deadlines exist. If anyone wants to look it up, it is chapter 542.055 of the insurance code. That's called the Prompt Payment of Claims Act. Absolutely notify your adjuster. I believe you've missed this deadline. Please let me know what's going on. The statute says you have to notify me of this. Please do that. I think people should be well armed with that information.
And I know we're talking to you about homeowners insurance policies. These policies don't apply to car insurance?
No, this does not apply to auto insurance.
All right, just to make that clear. And so then all of these things are my recourse basically would count on me needing to have an attorney, right? Because if they, I mean, I can write and say, hey, you're in violation of X, Y, and Z, and we'll post that information so that everybody knows what you can put in your letter, in your email communication or letter communication to them. But if they don't do that, then it takes an attorney to get that interest and everything you feel.
It might. A public adjuster is allowed to demand interest. That's part of their statutory authority. It might require attorneys. Any attorney that would work in this field is going to charge a contingent fee, so it would be no out-of-pocket cost. Hopefully it wouldn't get to that, but it is possible that an attorney might be required.
Okay. All right. Those are all very good deadlines, things to know. We have some time left, so I want to talk about something that people are seeing a lot more often these days, and that's replacement cost value and actual cost value.
Yeah, my insurance policy has an ACV limitation on my roof. What in the world does that mean?
Yeah.
Okay. So most policies that are issued are for what's called replacement cost value, RCV. That means generally the insurance company owes the cost to repair or replace the damaged materials with materials of like kind and quality. That's usually the language that's used. Now, that's not what they owe on the front end. What they owe is called the actual cash value, which is the replacement cost value less depreciation for age, condition, obsolescence of materials. So the insurance company will, let's say you've got a 30-year roof, it's 15 years old, and it's going to cost $30,000 to replace it. They'll cut you a check for $15,000, which is half of the value of the roof because that's the depreciated value. Now, what the policyholder should do in that situation is take that $15,000, use that as start money, do the work, get billed or invoiced or incur the full $30,000, submit that to the insurance company showing that you have in fact incurred that cost. They will then pay the withheld depreciation back to you. That is if you have an RCV policy.
A replacement cost value. And fewer people are getting, more and more people, fewer insurance companies are writing those these days, right?
For roofs especially. And what we're seeing is when the roof reaches a certain age, either they put you on a depreciation schedule and they depreciate it very heavily, or they cap you if your roof is usually 15 years old or more than your ACV only on your roof. Now, keep in mind, if your roof is damaged, but then you have water damage on the inside, ceiling, insulation, contents, things like that, those are not capped at ACV. You still get replacement cost value on those items. And insurance companies can sometimes, adjusters are busy just like everybody else is, they can miss that. So if you're relying on an ACV limitation for your roof, make sure that they're still paying the full replacement cost value on any other damaged item.
And I've talked to so many homeowners who are sort of on this fence. They're like, my insurance company says I need a new roof. It's 15, 16 years old, but I've got no leaks. It seems to be in good condition. I mean, I want to go until it actually looks like I need a new roof. And so they're trying to balance the value of how much more am I going to pay to get somebody to insure me versus how much am I going to have to pay to get a new roof.
My recommendation is this, and this is what I did on my personal home. I had an inspection done. My roof was getting older. It was still holding up. It wasn't leaking. I had an inspection done. I had someone come out, document, take detailed photographs so that if a hurricane comes through and further damages my roof, my insurance company can't say, oh, this is all old, worn out, whatever. I say, no, here's photos documenting exactly the condition of my roof to demonstrate new damages and get new coverage. If your roof survives this hurricane season, then honestly, it may be time to go in, do a replacement of your roof. You'll actually save money in the long run with insurance because your house is going to be more insurable at that point. But I'd say at this point, with hurricane season approaching, get the inspections done, document the current condition, and then see what happens at the end of hurricane season.
Just a normal home inspector like you would get when you're moving into a new home?
Normal home inspector, or honestly, a roofer. A roofer is well equipped to go out, do that inspection. There's a lot of reputable roofers out there. A public adjuster that we talked about, I encourage PAs all the time to do inspections. They'll do it well. They'll know what to look for. So those are probably 3 different resources you could go to get that inspection done. I personally called a public adjuster. All
right, Hunter Klein, very good information. We appreciate you coming in. And I'm so glad when you saw that segment, you called and said, hey, red flag, roofers shouldn't be telling you this, that they're going to help you file your claim. Great information. Thank you so much for coming in. We'll put all of this information that you need to know in our show notes and on clicktohouston.com. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.